Greetings, it is Camps in the Oracle. I am one whole of New Verse Live, and I want to explain to people what this new red dragon portal access is really about and how it impacts us. I want to break it down. I put it in the blog, so you can go and read the blog on the site. But I want to break this down for you because this is important. If you are someone that resonate with transcending the transgenerational trauma within your lineage, you are being called to step out of the 3D matrix timeline, which is not a harmonious frequency. Okay. So in the beginning of our awakening, we were going through a certain area of the photon belt, which the Mayan calendars were mapping to give us a roadmap through the underworld energy that we are in now. So I want to break down to you as simplified as possible what's happening, why it seems like we're having difficulty processing our emotions, why the planet is all of a sudden, everything is being censored and like you can't speak your truth anywhere. Like what is really happening that causes the 13 bloodlines to feel threatened? What's happening inside of your DNA? What can you do with this activation? That's what I want to express. So at this time in this cycle, there are two different versions of Earth that coexist. You got the multidimensional new Earth, which is what I have been discussing, a higher 5D frequency of consciousness. Okay, this is where we can heal overnight or heal immediately. This is where unlimited potential possibilities can be unlocked. All right, that's the new Earth. The lower dimensional alternate Earth, which is the third dimensional Earth, it no longer exists. Only the holographic reality of that 3D matrix exists. So the two planets are splitting and separating, and this is showing up on every level in our world right now. Okay. Part of the chaos that you may be experiencing is shifting in between these dimensions, which for most people is unconscious and is random, especially if you are not using astrology, metaphysical text, and learning the innate ability within our DNA that has been locked for a very long time until we were ready to receive this information and actually use it. Okay. So for some people, they may be going through the quickenings, but don't know. And you have less control over the reality you're co-creating. The saying that goes, the more you know, the more that you can grow into the person that you desire to be. The knowledge gives you access, but it is the practice of this knowledge that is going to give you this higher potential of yourself. So part of the chaos is this shifting and splitting that we're going through. Some of this showed up as Mandela effects. Okay, so these are some of the things that you might already know about that were the symptom of us going through these portals. As we are learning to move through these dimensions, we are being quickened to clear trauma and karmic debt. This is a time for you to care for your body. It is a time for you to create self-care routines and treat your body like a beautiful temple that it actually is. We just get so caught up sometimes. We forget to take care of ourselves. For those of us healing trauma, it can be difficult sometimes to focus on yourself, especially if you're dealing with codependency, people pleasing things. These are the programs that we experience on the 3D planet. So with this red magnetic dragon portal, this is the energy depicted by the Mayans, the astrological harmonic frequency alignment that is opening for us to step out of the false womb matrix into this higher vibrational energy. Your body may feel exhausted. You may feel intense frequencies, buzzing vibrations throughout your body. Anytime we do this, most people have an actual somatic experience as well. So that could be happening. The key is to surrender and trust the process. I know that that's easier said than done, but when you are accessing harmonic frequency of the true womb matrix in its natural state, it amplifies your ability to do things otherwise that may be difficult for you to do. And so as we are having the opportunity to have another cosmic restart, for those of you all who've been with us for a while, you know that this is not the first time. We did this last year when the wormhole opened up with Venus and Jupiter. And it's a few other astrological events going on right now with Pluto and Aquarius. That energy is also amplifying this. So the galactic frequency, we talk about the matrix. What is the 3D matrix? Well, it's a 1260 frequency energy that was created to keep us forced reincarnating without our memory of our past lives, rendering us less capable of breaking free of the simulation. Okay, so this particular red magnetic dragon energy is a sacred portal to go inward into yourself, to recalibrate your perceptions so that you can align with the things that you have been wanting to manifest. The 1260 energy is 12-month calendar and 60-minute hour. That is a very chaotic, disharmonious frequency. This is showing up with people leaving their jobs, people wanting to do something else, people switching up. And this is also one of the reasons that a lot of manufactured famines and money, the economic reset is happening. It's kind of like we're in a Great Depression, but nobody is quite saying it, right? This is happening to keep us in a lack mindset. And so we're going to be facilitating to go through this portal by using revocations and vows to ourselves, to the new version of you that you are co-creating. Now, from a 3D, going back to the 3D, it's a false time, okay? It's a dream spell of false time. And the people who have been running the planet take orders from this artificial intelligence. And I'll get more into this during the event. So what happens is that 1260 frequency, which is much like a virus to harmony, it infiltrates the institutions, our science, politics, medicine, religious institutions, and celebrity culture is kind of like a PSA about what's happening vibrationally for people with their third eye open to see the spiritual pulse of what's happening. So this breeds the disharmonious energy of unnatural, war, taxes, inequality, poverty, greed, genetically modified food, destruction of nature, materialism, abuse of all types. Okay, we see this coming out now. The end game of this 1260 frequency cult is to merge humans with machines. This is not new. I've been saying that this actually was written in the Bible, depicted in the stories about the beast and the iron mingling with the clay. This is why, with the Mandela effect, the Bible began to change. It's no longer the lions shall lay with the lambs. Now the lions and wolves lay together. There are churches and streets and neighborhoods and paintings all over the world with this scripture, yet no one can find it in their Bible. I revealed that about 7 years ago. That's because the false timeline loop is being edited. So we can be triggered to go back to 1982, and whatever triggers you may have forgotten about you were dealing with in 82, you will start somatically feeling those triggers all over again. That is the way the false time loop sorcery is cast over the planet. Okay. So they talked about in the book of Revelations, they talked about the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns. Verses 5-8 say that this beast would be given 42 months, which is 1,260 days, to oppose God and make war against God's people. Well, the 7-headed beast is symbolic of the ego. Okay. It can also be seen as a dragon that must be slain. Okay. So this world caters to and feeds the dragon. This is the ego. And it keeps us stuck, separated from our connection to spirit. We become severed from spirit. And this shows up in feeling lost, depressed, stuck. Maybe it's something in your life that's been difficult for you to change or cut out. This 1260 energy, it doesn't support the heart coming online. This is why we're seeing so many people struggling with intimacy in relationships. There's a virus. I've been talking about this, and it's on our Patreon. But there's a virus that affects the heart, just as there is an indigenous depicted virus called Wedigo that affects the mind, which triggers the egoic self. So, this is why we're seeing the censorship, because as we awaken, we're putting out information that is helping people to break free of some of these traumatic programs. And everybody that's called first, second, third wave, like we have our own form of healing, and we have our own medium and platforms that we channel that. Which is so beautiful to see the age of Aquarius opening this up. However, this suppression of energy from the 1260 frequency, the artificial 3D matrix womb space, it will cause you to seek addictions to feed the hunger, the abyss within the inner soul. Now, the Gregorian calendar, of course, is the instrument of control. The false frequency has become second nature to a lot of us, right? So a lot of people go to work and it maybe used to feel second nature, but it doesn't anymore. You can feel how precious time is. And sometimes your passion is not connected to what you're doing. So, there are many levels to us being on a prison planet and how that's kept in place. This 1260 frequency also shows up as a perpetual state of feeling like a victim to something, feeling disempowered, experiencing division. In relationships, maybe it's difficult to have conflict resolutions, to have sensitive conversations so that you can work through whatever issues are happening or needs are not being met. But due to this trauma, right, that is constantly being triggered and bombarded on us in the form of fear, this frequency of war, famine, your water, power outages. We watch people freeze in their vehicles. We watch animals freeze to death. Like, so many people are dying. It's so much happening at one time. And what happens is when we drop below the veil of consciousness, when we're not self-aware, our shame wounds, our feelings of inadequacy, and the self-hatred takes over, and you're no longer the driver in that moment. And you may say things that you regret. Maybe you suppress it and don't say anything, and you start to feel sick later. This is some pretty serious stuff that we're experiencing on the planet right now. But we don't have to feel a victim and disempowered by it. So living under this spell of false time, this false light of consciousness, that process is the 3D matrix smoke and mirrors. Okay. And though our stories feel so real, they're changing. Those that experience a new reality is because of the change that they made in their mindsets, the emotions that they feel towards themselves, and the actions that they take once they are inspired. Abraham Hicks talking about having a vortex that you're able to sustain the energy so that you are attracting opportunities and attracting things that reflect this unlimited, untapped potential inside of you. Now, emotionally, we're charged, so we're easily frustrated and triggered. Our body is experiencing 5G radiation and Wi-Fi. So, without using practices like breath work and meditations, mantras, and yoga movement is so sacred. Sound healing. When we're not keeping up our spiritual hygiene, the war that we're experiencing against consciousness becomes so obvious to see, and it's uncomfortable. And the question that I continue to ask myself is, am I willing to be uncomfortable to leave a spiritual legacy for those entering the planet after me, right? Am I willing to be uncomfortable to become the new evolved version of me? Am I willing to step outside of this system of control that I think I've created so comfortably, but I know that there's something deeper for me to fulfill as my purpose in life. Now, our consciousness creates the bridge to enter into the new earth. It is through the way that you think, the thoughts that you allow to marinate, that you invite in and throw a party with. Like, what are you thinking about the most? If your inner dialogue is mostly negative and critical and you avoid facing that exact same energy will be reflected and projected outside of you into your reality. Each one of us can be possible bridges to this new earth, or we can be anchored to the 3D earth. This is free will. It's up to us. So as we are awakening and raising our frequency, we are entering to these higher spheres, and it's a new octave level of being. We begin to regain our spiritual abilities, remember past lives, resonate with star systems, right? Some of us are becoming increasingly more clairvoyant by the day, more telepathic, more capable of sensing little small vibrational nuances of energy. I mean, just in so many ways, we are shifting and changing. A lot of us are stuck in these time loops, rendering us incapable of seeing the supernatural power that's in the shadow of what we avoid. Now, if our consciousness is the bridge and our awareness is the key, where we direct our attention is so important. Are we placing our attention on the new that is being born? Or are we ruminating on what was, even if it was just yesterday, that could have been negative? Like, what are we thinking about the most? These are questions to ask yourself. As we are in between these worlds, as the bifurcation, the splitting of realities, also called the apocalypse, Armageddon, right? The rapture, the tribulation period, many names that this go by, Kali Yuga, halls of Amenti, Duat. The heart chakra is the throne of your divinity. When you align your heart and your mind, which is the noos, N-O-O-S, you're capable of breaking free of the 3D earth plane to reclaim your divine birthright. That might sound a little mystical, and it kind of is, because this requires our ability to reimagine our reality. Life is too short to allow our reality to continue to be programmed by psychopathic beings on this planet who will not benefit from us being able to break free of what has kept us enslaved most of the time unconsciously for eons. During this time, I talk about some things that you can journal and focus on, especially if you are a beginner and coming into this information. And so that blog, I'm going to put that in the description so that you can go and read that. That's for everybody. These are the instructions for transferring your consciousness, upgrading your awareness to be more self-aware, to find the power that's within you, so that the chaos that's happening in the world doesn't negate from what your soul came here to fulfill. And I know the frequency sometimes can cause us to be doubtful, afraid, and really not feeling supported or ready to do certain things, yet there is a burning desire in your heart to do something new, to try something new, to have faith in yourself, to try again, right? And you don't want to just try, but it's something inside of you that wants to succeed, whatever that is. What does that look like? These are thoughts and mindsets that must be rebirthed, reset, reaffirmed. Because reaffirming our trauma, the narrative that we are used to, the story of being betrayed and abandoned and nobody will ever love us and I'm not enough. That's what they want us to do. It feeds the machine. It feeds into the AI system of artificial life force. Okay. Now, someone who carried the energy of the red magnetic dragon happened to also be Nelson Mandela. Can't make this up. And it's very interesting that he was the one whose name was used to name this phenomenon of things changing in history that we so clearly remember to be different. Some of us remember things several different ways. Nelson Mandela. My memory was of him dying in prison. So when I heard in 2013 that he didn't die in prison, I went to check it out. And of course, I made a decoding about it, sharing with you some of the residuals of the timeline, the old earth, the other simulated reality we were once on. We've been moved several times. Okay. And so each time it leaves these signals for people who are aware of this manipulation. And again, even if all this is new to you, if you're listening to this, you're being called into this revolutionary rebirth. The Mayan timekeepers mapped this out for us. The 9-year visionary Mayan map came to me from having dreams and visions, going to the future, gathering information, collecting it, decoding it. And that took me ultimately from Christianity through many belief systems, arriving to where I am today. Now, there are some instructions that will help you to anchor yourself in a higher timeline, okay? Where you are not being controlled anymore by the limitations on your mind, the inherited consciousness passed down that has also kept us locked in fear and division. This false illusion, as the veil of the 3D matrix is coming down, people are getting exposed. People who once thought they were so powerful that they would be able to do heinous things to harmless beings on this planet. That's not being allowed anymore. Are you picking up on how brave and courageous people are becoming? Some people are so revolutionary in speaking their truth and exposing the atrocities that have been happening. They're willing to risk anything to do it. Now, I don't know about you, but for me, down in my soul, I know when it's time for me to level up. I know I can feel it. I can feel when I'm not fully experiencing life as my soul desires to experience it. I can feel when fear is holding me hostage and I'm afraid that I'm not going to be good enough. I'm afraid of what people will say. This red magnetic dragon wave spell is the galactic cure for a lot of this disharmonious frequency and the entities that are attached to these lower 3D dimensional thoughts, which are directly connected to the astral plane, where the archonic parasites drain life force energy. Have you ever noticed how tired you get from an argument now? Have you noticed? It's so taxing on your system. Everything inside of you is telling you that this is not the way forward. Now, Nelson Mandela, he spoke up for people who have been oppressed. He was willing to go against iron fist governments, causing war for selfish gains for the sake of liberation. The 3D matrix cult of AI is not new, okay? The Mandela effect, the first one that went viral, was centered around Nelson Mandela. And the link to these videos will also be in the blog that contains the instructions for this group, Galactic Activation Portal. We will be exiting more of the template imprinted in us by the 3D time spell of suffering and trauma, learning about the differences between these dimensions, and we will be walking through this wormhole portal opening up together. This entrapment that they are seeking to continue is not working. We're waking up to the power within. When one is in a state of fear, one will do whatever the authority commands to ensure a false illusion of safety. We've been there. Healers are spiritual warriors who have found the courage to defeat the darkness that has been implanted within our souls. Awakening and rising from the depths of our deepest fears, the abyss, like a phoenix rising from the ashes, we shall be reborn with wisdom that is the naga, and strength that creates true light that will shine bright enough to help encourage and inspire others out of their own abyss of trauma. You are the intersection of the macro universe and the micro universe. You are the gate. You are the door. Lao Tzu called this door the door to all wonders. This is where yin and yang merge harmoniously. This has also been called the middle way by Henry Chong. The more beings who stop believing in imprisonment and limitation, the stronger the energy builds, the wider the doorway becomes for others to walk through. Think about the spiritual legacy we are leaving. The space that holds us as love workers is nothing small about it. And though you may not give yourself the credit, you have been doing the work and you have been doing the best that you could with what you have. But we are being offered acceleration for planetary consciousness. If you but have the purity of heart and a perspective that is beyond your limitation, then you are holding the door open for others to come through. just as we hold the door open for you. And that was a quote from the book Jewels on the Path that really resonated with me. There are many other people who have begun this process of shifting to the new earth. Some call it Planet Key, some call it Gaia, okay? And we are mutating electromagnetically. As we are altering our frequency, the tunes that are broadcast into our nous, into our mind and our heart, begins to shift as well and outgrow the frequency that has held us down and continually blast us with a lot of confusion, chaos, and the inability to perceive a truth from a lie. Eventually, when you alter, carry, and maintain your own frequency, you will vibrate differently, and thus you will affect everybody around you. They will feel the availability of this frequency alternation, which will then move like a wave of consciousness across the planet. This new frequency that we have worked so hard to obtain in many lifetimes brings an end to the domino chain effect of the chaos that is being generated and engineered by this new technology, quote unquote. All right, Wi-Fi. So we are being offered an opportunity to step out of this system of control. I want to remind you, the ego is not your enemy. The ego is meant to be your ally. These are new earth ideologies. These are new earth philosophies. These are new earth mindsets. This is the integration where no part of you is the enemy anymore. You're not looking for an enemy inside of you. You're not looking for an enemy outside of you. You become the frequency you choose to live within, and you transmit that energy everywhere you go. We are 5D towers that forgot many of our abilities. So when something annoys you, it is simply there to teach you patience. Can we PRP our reality together? Yes, we can. Anyone who abandons you is teaching you your ability to stand up on your own 2 feet and live without them. Anything that angers you is for teaching you compassion and forgiveness. Anything that seems to have power over you is teaching you how to take your power back. Anything that you hate is showing up to teach you how to love unconditionally. And anything that you fear is for teaching you courage to overcome your fear. Anything that you cannot control is for teaching you how to let go and trust the universe. That was written by Jackson Kiddard, Kiddard, and that will also be in the blog with the instructions. Together, we are going to make a vow to commit to the new version of us, to keep this new frequency energy within us, for the new me to stay. Namaste, homeostasis. That's the energy of creation. Om is peace. New me stay is acknowledging that I am a spiritual being of divine essence, and I am having these experiences to evolve, recreating new versions of me, and I'm capable of maintaining my vortex, even if there's chaos around. We're going to be choosing to cleanse ourselves and release these thought forms, beings, and situations and energies that are just no longer in service to our highest good, our highest honor. Across all planes of existence, all universes, and all lifetimes, we will not be anything less than love from this point forward. We become the solution to the illusion. This divine spark that we're receiving is genetically mutating us. It's changing our DNA from 2-fold to 12-fold. In the moment of ascension, this divine spark, this life of vibrational frequency, begins to emit through the body, and it takes time for us to acclimate to this energy. So, as you can see, without this energy, there is no fertility. There is no life on this planet. Every time you make a decision, you tear a hole in the fabric of space-time and enter into a new parallel reality. Not making a decision causes the same to happen. You may have thought that doing this requires a shaman or shrooms or time machine or all three, but actually it stems from free will. It's so subtle, you may not notice it, but it happens all the time. We are experiencing the decisions of our past lives, the incomplete lessons, our inherited beliefs, and our own decisions or indecision. Each decisions we make or refuse to make become the fabric of our reality. So this feminine cycle, which is 260 days for a woman to become a mother and for a new human being to develop inside the mother's womb, the red dragon archetype symbolizes the sacred feminine matrix, the uterus of the mystery of life, both terrestrial and spiritual. Mother Earth was also a metaphorical, metaphysical dragon during her volcanic period, manifesting the fertility which brought the possibility of life on Earth. Now, as we are being quickened through these rebirths, again, some people will get some of this activation, even if they're unconscious that this is happening, okay? But again, your consciousness is the bridge to higher dimensions, and your awareness is the key to unlock it. So let me explain the negative symptoms of a time traveler, someone who has indigenous codes within them that may be a dream walker, psychic, intuitive, extremely empathic, any type of spiritual abilities. There is, of course, a dark side to that. And not dark as in bad, dark as in the shadow aspect. So time traveling from making decisions, including your past lives, because time is folding in on itself. Remember, we're experiencing multiple parallel realities and two earths. This is why sometimes you feel like two separate people throughout the day and throughout the week. Some of y'all could split in a second, literally. Time travel through dimensions can show up as different symptoms, most often perceived as negative and only negative, but I'm going to PRP this as I share this with you, White Wizard style. My galactic signature is of timelessness and enchantment. So my perspective oftentimes doesn't catch on until time passes. I share it and I feel strange because it might be a truth that I'm sharing that I don't know anybody else who believes as I do, and I share it. And then I have other souls who comment on the videos like, I feel you. And that is literally the purpose of the first, second, third wave, fourth wave volunteers on planet Earth that are really starseeds. Okay, so it's so cool how we share the truth that maybe we don't think is popular or nobody would resonate with it. And you actually connect magnetically with your tribe by doing that, by being your authentic self. So you see the power of stepping outside of your fear, especially fear of judgment. So anxiety, from a metaphysical spiritual perspective, is an emotional steering from a future moment. The future moment can vary from seconds to years away. Signs you are trying to avoid problems by living in the future, which means you live inside your head, the mental space, the ego. One of those signs is catastrophic thinking. You're worrying about a future end result, maybe of an argument, imagining the outcome that may or may not happen. Another sign is being attached to outcomes that doesn't allow you to live in the present moment because you are tense, physically and mentally rigid. The egoic mind has taken over and you are only focused on the possible future problematic outcome. Let me give you an example. My daughter told me that she wasn't feeling well, so I began making herbal teas for her. I chose some crystals for her during her nap time and sleep for healing. I created a playlist with binaural and rife beats for meditation, and I changed my whole schedule for the day to be available for her. After doing all of that planning, worrying, ruminating in my mind, and being excessively concerned for how bad this can get, I was living in the future and I was exhausted from traveling back and forth in my mind to a catastrophic future that did not happen. I gave her a cup of lemon water and she told me that she felt better. I spent hours planning for something as if I was avoiding a catastrophe that hadn't even happened yet. You smell what I'm cooking? Don't believe the hype. The smoke and mirrors of the 3D matrix, it feels really, really real. And we get so stuck in our stories. And sometimes we're so sure of ourselves in the state of disillusion that recalibration becomes something outside of our reach because we are enslaved to our own mind, locked and trapped in our own head. Another sign is depression. This is living in the past. These are symptoms that show up as replaying loops of abandonment from the past, rejection. Maybe the loops lead to you avoiding intimacy, becoming combative. It could lead to you fearing accountability, often feeling like you're being blamed or shamed for something, feeling as if you can't do anything right, and people often criticize you. You can find yourself taking things really personal. Next up, dark night of the soul. And that's okay. However, getting stuck there, that's exactly what this 3D matrix feeds on. The pain and the suffering that we experience in our limitations. So you're stuck in the past. You're not present. You're not in your body. You're not interfacing what's in your present moment. You, in this moment, are unaware and you are fully hijacked by something else using your limbic system to keep you from regulating your emotions with the loops playing in your mind of negative situations in the past, creating a filter that we often experience over and over again, even if a threat really isn't present. How would you know if you're in fight or flight, freeze or fawn, right? So if admitting to doing something wrong led to some type of punishment in the past, sometimes we will punish ourselves by repressing all of these emotions, ruminating in our mind, and this leads to more depression. When we live in the past, we become very reactive to situations, disproportionate to actually the reality of what's occurring in the present moment. Remember, you're living in the past, so you're not receiving transmissions of what's happening in the present moment. There's an interference in the way you're perceiving what's happening. This is linked to our childhood. A lot of us didn't know that we were wounded adult children up until our awakening. So, as you can see, time travel is something that we do often. And scripting our reality is something that we also do often. The key is self-awareness. And the self-awareness accesses higher levels of consciousness. And this is the reason that the egoic structure is used to keep us from being self-aware. You can't heal something you can't feel. You can't repair a program you don't know exists. And sometimes we disown and disidentify with energies that are stored within us because it's uncomfortable. And maybe in the past, being honest about how you feel didn't play out so well. Okay? So those are some of the time travel symptoms that show up in the structure of the 1260 harmonic frequency, which is used as a frequency fence to keep humans force reincarnating. Here are a couple of characteristics of the human ego. Eckhart Tolle says that the ego is a false sense of self based on mental concepts. It is identification with the body and mind, identification with form, which primary means thought forms. Some of the examples of an egoic pattern is blaming, judging, accusing, gossiping, complaining, and shaming. Identifying with mental positions, needing to be right, needing to have enemies, applying negative mental labels to people before you actually have the facts, demanding recognition for something you did and getting anger or upset with people if they don't act like they appreciate you for doing it. And sometimes this is doing something that people didn't even ask us to do. We get pretty pissed about that. This is part of the ego. Trying to get attention by talking about our problems, talking about our illnesses, sometimes being overdramatic and making a scene. I noticed some of this seemed to be the way to go and the way to release stress. Again, there is more than one way to do everything. The decision that you make, the tool that you use, creates your reality. There are many other ways that the ego shows up when we are not self-aware, and those will be listed in the blog with the instructions for this next portal, rebirth. So head on over there if you are ready to finally get anchored into this new version of you that you feel. I know y'all feel it. I know that you feel it. And I know that it can be very frustrating when what you feel doesn't seem to be real. It doesn't seem to be happening fast enough. And I want to encourage you. It's okay to take your time. Whether you do this or not, you are still enough just as you are. And we are not the worst menaces to society and fuck ups and all of the negative things that we think about ourselves. We are highly advanced, telepathic, intelligent star seeds, extensions of source energy, having this experience, co-creating our reality, clearing past karmic lessons by becoming self-aware, altering the way we interact with ourselves, accessing the goddess that is within. Now, I could just keep going because I'm pretty excited about sharing with you the information about the timekeepers that created these calendars and the avatars. And this is why the movie Avatar came out when it did. It's so many alignments and synchronicities. But I'm not going to do that here. I'm going to save that for our meetup. So if you are ready to wipe your quantum computer of unnecessary viruses that cause stress, if you are ready to feel the impact of the work that you have been doing on yourself, if you are ready to release the need to people please, to be codependent, attracting emotionally unavailable partners in trauma bonds, creating relationships founded in holographic love, this definitely will resonate with you. If you are ready to receive the flow of wealth and health in its most abundant state, no matter where you are now, no matter how things feel or appear to be, remember, this is a holographic reality and you have the power to shift your reality. So, I'm ready. I feel like you're ready because if you wasn't, you wouldn't be here. This event can be whatever amount you feel resonates with you. We didn't make a set price for this. My guides was like, look, we need to do something new. We got to shake it up. All right. Some of y'all have had a really hard time and you deserve to be able to access this new information and this harmonic healing frequency. So the price is whatever you choose for it to be. Okay. And you will receive the 9-year Mayan calendar. You will receive the full soul revocation. And you will also receive the vows that we are making to love, embrace, support, and have compassion for ourselves in the areas where we have been brutal towards ourselves that others often do not see. It all happens on the battlefield inside of the mind. New verse. Let's get it. New me stay.
Royalty in disguise.